Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding reportedly cost more than most people will earn in a lifetime. But where did all that money actually go? From a world-famous venue to luxury details few people noticed, we're breaking down every major expense to find out what the wedding really cost. Let me break it down. On the Friday night of July 3rd, black SUVs lined up outside Madison Square Garden in Midtown Manhattan, dropping off guests in black tie. Superfans and sleuths appeared to have their hunches confirmed as dozens of black cars dropped off elegantly dressed guests outside of Madison Square Garden in New York City. By that point, the location wasn't really a secret anymore. Reporters had confirmed a street permit closing the blocks around the arena days earlier. Inside, the ceremony itself was quick and quiet compared to everything happening around it. The pop star and Kansas City Chiefs tight end tied the knot Friday night at Madison Square Garden in a star-studded ceremony, officiated by actor Adam Sandler. According to Swift's publicist T-Pain, there were no bridesmaids, no groomsmen. Swift's brother Austin Swift served as her man of honor, and Travis's brother Jason Kelce served as best man. By 7:30 that evening, the arena's marquee lit up with the confirmation everyone had been waiting for. The news was signaled to fans by a marquee outside the Midtown Manhattan arena, which lit up around 7:30 p.m. ET with the message "Just and T married," a play on the couple's initials. Now here's where the money conversation actually starts, because nobody just wanders into MSG for date night. One does not casually tie the knot at an arena in bustling Midtown, and regardless of whether the wedding would take place at the Garden, it underscored the star power and fat wallet of the couple. Before the couple ever said "I do," reporters and wedding planners were already crunching numbers on what a wedding at the world's most famous arena would run. CNN got the first real figure out of the luxury wedding world. One luxury wedding planner who spoke on the condition of anonymity, citing the privacy expectations of her clientele, estimated a luxury wedding at the Garden could cost from $15 million to $20 million. Another planner, working independently of that source, landed somewhere lower but still nowhere near ordinary. Another luxury wedding planner, Jason Rhee, estimated it could be $10 million. That's the range that stuck for most of the coverage. Somewhere between $10 and $20 million, depending on who you asked and how generous the couple decided to be with their money. Speculation and reports suggested that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's rumored wedding at Madison Square Garden on July 3 could cost between $10 million and $20 million. To put that number in perspective, compare it to what a normal couple pays. The average wedding and reception cost for an everyday couple in 2025 was approximately $34,000. Swift and Kelce's low estimate alone is nearly 300 times that. Their high estimate is closer to 600 times that. And this wasn't a one-night event. CNN's sources described two separate gatherings tied to the wedding. Sources told CNN that the Garden was set to host two events related to their union that week: a rehearsal on Thursday evening and a larger celebration for 1,000 people the next day. That's a rehearsal dinner for a smaller group, followed by a full-blown reception for 1,000 people the very next night, all inside the same arena that just weeks earlier had hosted NBA Finals crowds. Why MSG at all? Why would two of the most famous people on the planet choose an arena that normally hosts Knicks games and concerts over a private estate or an all-inclusive resort somewhere nobody could find them? A luxury wedding designer who spoke to CNN framed it as the perfect symbolic fit. The significance of it being a venue that's in the city that she has a home in, and because it's a venue that caters to both music and to sports, it is a perfect fit for their union. Tracy Taylor Ward told CNN, "There was also a very practical reason, and it circles right back to the money. Arenas like MSG are built to keep people out just as much as they're built to let people in." The iconic venue provided Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, along with their A-list celebrity guests, a rare combination of privacy, security, and scale that few locations could match. That combination, total lockdown security plus enough square footage for 1,000 guests, doesn't come cheap, but it also doesn't exist in very many places on Earth. Not everyone was convinced the arena made sense on pure romance. One New York City police officer stationed outside the garden as the story developed put it about as bluntly as anyone did. "She's a glamorous girl. She wouldn't get married here," he told CNN, expressing doubt that a stadium wedding would suit her. The wedding designer agreed the venue had an image problem before it even got dressed up. "MSG looks cold and hard, and the antithesis of what you would think of when you think of romance and weddings," Ward said. That skepticism is exactly why the couple spent what they spent. Turning a hockey rink into something that reads as romantic isn't free. It's actually one of the most expensive parts of the entire operation. And we'll get into exactly how much of the budget went toward making 20,000 empty seats disappear behind lighting, drapery, and staging. But before decor, before flowers, before any of the finishing touches, there's a much bigger number sitting at the base of the whole thing: what it costs just to rent the building for a weekend. And according to insiders, Swift and Kelce didn't get so much as a discount. Every wedding planner will tell you the same thing about budgets. The venue eats the biggest chunk before anything else even gets ordered. Every couple knows that the biggest expense in a wedding is the venue, an average of $12,900 in 2026 for everyday couples, according to The Knot. Madison Square Garden is not an everyday venue. To understand why the Garden costs what it costs, look at what it charges for far smaller slices of real estate. The price significantly jacks up at a venue that just hosted courtside NBA championship seats for $220,000. That's a single pair of seats for one basketball game. Swift and Kelce were renting the entire building. TMZ got a number that several outlets then used as the baseline for the whole event. According to TMZ, Swift and Kelce weren't given any celebrity discount and were paying full price for the location. Reportedly $1 million a night for the venue. That's the sticker price before a single flower gets placed or a single chair gets rented. Now multiply that by how many nights they actually needed the building. That included at least 3 days, 1 day early for setup, the day of the event, and the day after to strike it all, putting the venue alone at $3 million. Other outlets landed on a slightly smaller window based on the 2 confirmed events. According to TMZ, booking Madison Square Garden reportedly ran about $1 million per night. And with a rehearsal on Thursday and the larger gathering of about 1,000 guests on Friday, that alone would bring the venue total to around $2 million. Luxury wedding planner Sonal Shah gave the New York Post her own independent number, landing in almost exactly the same ballpark. According to luxury wedding planner Sonal Shah, renting the iconic arena alone could cost nearly $2.5 million. So whether you use TMZ's math or Shah's estimate, you're looking at somewhere between $2 and $3 million just to have the keys to the building for a few days. And that's before you've paid for a single person to actually work inside it. Because an empty arena doesn't set itself up. Someone has to build the stage, hang the lighting rigs, and take it all back down before the next event rolls through. Other major costs to account for include the crew responsible for setting up the venue, including stagehands to riggers, the tradespeople responsible for hanging equipment from ceilings. And because much of the MSG labor is unionized, those costs run even higher than usual. That labor detail matters more than it might seem. Unionized arena crews in New York aren't cheap under normal circumstances, and rush jobs on a holiday weekend push rates up further. Every rigger hanging a light, every stagehand rolling out carpet over hockey ice, every union electrician wiring a temporary sound system. All of it stacks on top of the base rental fee. And then there's the part almost nobody accounts for in a normal wedding budget: replacing the bathrooms. An arena built for 20,000 hockey fans does not have facilities built for a black tie reception. Then there's the bathrooms. It's hard to imagine A-list celebrities lining up for the existing stalls, and it's not out of the realm for Swift and Kelce to be either creating their own bathrooms or fabricating new walls within them, Ward said. Building temporary luxury restrooms inside a sports arena is its own specialty industry, and it isn't a line item that shows up in a typical banquet hall, quote, "Put it together and the venue side of the ledger alone. Rental, labor, and the physical transformation of the space. Sit somewhere between $2 and $3 million before you've touched decor, catering, or entertainment. That's roughly 10% of even the lower end of the total estimate, all spent just to have somewhere to stand. It's worth pausing on why a couple worth what Swift and Kelce are worth would even blink at that math. If the nuptials happened at Madison Square Garden, the newly minted billionaire and three-time NFL champion could afford to go all out. Swift crossed billionaire status a couple of years back through her music and touring empire, and Kelce's NFL earnings and endorsement deals put him firmly in the financial stratosphere too. Neither of them was making a stretch by booking the building. The real question was never whether they could afford it. It was how far they'd take everything layered on top of it. And that's where the number really starts climbing. Because once you've paid for the shell of the building, you still have to make it look, sound, and feel like a wedding rather than a hockey rink with folding chairs. That transformation, the lighting, the flowers, the outfits the couple wore down the aisle, turned out to be one of the most expensive parts of the entire night. If the venue was the foundation, the decor was the part that actually made guests believe they were at a wedding and not a Rangers game. Lighting alone in a room the size of Madison Square Garden is its own 6- or 7-figure production. Ira Levy, a lighting and sound specialist who's worked events for names like the Ambani family and Ivanka Trump, gave CNN a direct number for what a space like the Garden would need. Ira Levy said he has handled the lighting and sound for weddings of high-profile clientele, including the Ambani family in India and Ivanka Trump, and said that at a venue like Madison Square Garden, lighting could start at $650,000 for an event and go up to almost $1 million. To put that in context against a normal luxury wedding, he gave a comparison point most people would never think to ask about. For context, lighting for large-scale weddings in luxury tents is usually between $150,000 to $300,000 for the entire event, he said. So the lighting bill for one night at MSG could run 3 to 6 times what a wealthy family pays for lighting at a private estate wedding. That's just to make a hockey rink not look like a hockey rink. Then there's everything sitting on top of the tables and hanging from the rafters. The flowers, the greenery, the floral walls that photograph well and disappear the next morning. One anonymous wedding planner gave CNN a sense of scale most florists never get to work at. The anonymous wedding planner said that while they have seen people spend up to $500,000 on flowers and decor, Swift could easily hit $1 million or more based on the arena's size. $500,000 is already an eye-watering number for flowers at a normal celebrity wedding. Swift and Kelce were being projected to clear that just because of how much physical space needed to be filled, to make a room built for 20,000 spectators feel intimate. Now add the outfits the couple actually walked down the aisle in, because this is where the numbers stop being estimates from anonymous planners and start being confirmed by the couple's own team. Swift's publicist put out a statement naming the exact house behind both looks. The bride and groom's wedding ceremony looks have been created by Christian Dior Haute Couture. They are designed by Jonathan Anderson, creative director of Dior Women's, Men's, and Haute Couture collections, in close collaboration with the bride and groom, the statement said. That's not off-the-rack designer wear. Haute couture, by definition, is built piece by piece for one specific body, using construction techniques that can take hundreds of hours of hand labor in a single house's ateliers. Anderson himself framed it as a milestone for his own career, not just for the couple. This is the designer's first couture wedding dress for a world-renowned celebrity, the statement noted. The accessories weren't an afterthought either. Their shoes were custom-made by Christian Louboutin, and the bride wore Cartier jewelry, per the statement. Custom Louboutin and Cartier aren't the kind of names that come with published price tags, which is exactly the point. Pieces like that are usually quoted privately, and figures in the high 5 and 6 figures for a single custom piece aren't unusual in that world. None of this even touches the sound system, the staging for whatever performances happen, or the labor behind converting an arena floor into something that could hold a runway-style aisle. Every one of those production elements sits on top of the lighting and flower numbers already on the table. And then there's the layer almost nobody puts a number on until after the fact: privacy engineering. This wasn't a wedding where guests could bring a phone and snap a candid for their own feed. The couple's guests were required to sign non-disclosure agreements ahead of the event, and phones were reportedly banned inside the arena, according to Variety. Banning phones at an event with 1,000 A-list guests doesn't happen through a polite request at the door. It requires locked pouches, staff trained to enforce it, and a legal team drafting agreements airtight enough that nobody risks leaking so much as a photo. The New York Times reported that numerous Kansas City Chiefs players had booked a nearby hotel that weekend, and starting the Monday before, trucks were seen unloading everything from massive, covered objects to rolled carpets and food, as MSG was completely blocked off, and several midtown blocks were closed to both vehicles and pedestrians to ensure total privacy for the incoming guests. That's an entire section of Manhattan reshaped around one event days before it even happened. Streets closed, sidewalks blocked, a hotel fully booked out by NFL players flying in for the weekend. None of that comes free, and none of it is optional once you've decided the wedding of the century is happening in the middle of one of the busiest cities on the planet. By the time you stack lighting, flowers, couture, custom accessories, NDAs, and the physical lockdown of several city blocks on top of the venue rental, you're already well past the venue's own multi-million-dollar price tag. And that's before paying for a single guest to actually show up. Which brings us to the part of the story that made this wedding feel less like a private ceremony and more like a cultural event. Exactly who was in the room and what it cost to keep all of them safe. 1,000 guests. That's the number CNN sources landed on for the main reception night. And once you start naming who actually filled those seats, it becomes obvious why security alone became its own multi-million-dollar line item. Start with family. Travis's mother, Donna Kelce, touched down in New York on Thursday and headed straight to Madison Square Garden, per backgrid photos published by TMZ. Travis's oldest friend was there too. Travis's childhood best friend Eric Jones was also on the guest list, according to People. Then there was the football contingent, led by his closest teammate, Kelce's friend, Chiefs teammate and restaurant business partner Patrick Mahomes, and his wife, soccer player and entrepreneur Brittany Mahomes, also took part in the festivities. The athlete guest list ran far deeper than just one teammate. Guests included athletes such as Justin Thomas, Baker Mayfield, Cooper Kupp, and Kareem Hunt. The entertainment side of the room was arguably even heavier. The entertainment industry showed out in style, from Ed Sheeran and Zoe Kravitz to Jimmy Fallon and Jay-Z. Swift's own musical circle was well represented too, starting with her longtime collaborator. Among the first celebrity guests spotted arriving at the rehearsal dinner Thursday evening were Swift's longtime collaborator Jack Antonoff and his sister, fashion designer Rachel Antonoff, according to People. More names kept arriving through the evening. Actor Lena Dunham was also photographed heading into the arena, along with model Gigi Hadid and actor Bradley Cooper, who arrived together in an SUV. British television carried its own delegation too, including one guest who'd been publicly invited on air months earlier. British TV presenter Graham Norton, whom Swift had jokingly invited during her 2025 appearance on his talk show, also made it in the door, as did British radio host Greg James. Comedy and daytime television both had a seat at the table. Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan, the anchors of Good Morning America, were all in attendance. One comedian even joked publicly about the cover story she'd been asked to keep. Comedian Nikki Glazer shared a photo of herself in a long, lacy black dress, alongside a caption that thanked designers for dressing me for a black tie comedy gig. "I'm sorry I lied to you," she joked, referring to the secrecy around attending the wedding. Music legends were on the bill in a different way entirely, not just as guests, but reportedly as part of the entertainment itself. Stevie Nicks and Tim McGraw were among the reported performers at the wedding, according to Page 6. Now put 1,000 people like that. Pop stars, NFL champions, network anchors, British broadcasters, film actors, inside one building. And you've got a security problem unlike almost anything else in the events industry. This is where the budget takes its next major jump, and it's the one part of the bill that isn't really about romance at all. It's about liability. Security estimates on this wedding ranged wildly depending on who was doing the counting. One estimate from an events security expert put a wide bracket on the number. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's rumored two-day wedding at Madison Square Garden could incur private security costs between $3 million and $5 million, with one expert suggesting a lower estimate of $1 million to $2 million. That's before you even bring in the public side of the equation. Because unlike a private estate wedding, an event inside a Manhattan arena pulls city police resources into the mix, whether the couple wants it to or not. TMZ also reported that the NYPD would be involved in providing security for the events, which they estimated could add more than $150,000 to the bill. That NYPD detail is actually what turned this from a celebrity spending story into a local politics story. Because streets around Madison Square Garden don't close themselves, and officers don't reroute traffic for free. A New York City congresswoman publicly raised the question of who exactly should be footing that portion of the bill, pointing to a growing pattern of ultra-wealthy weddings leaning on public resources. Jeff Bezos took over the entire city of Venice for his wedding last year to Lauren Sanchez. And now, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce booked Madison Square Garden over the 4th of July weekend for their nuptials. The comparison stuck because both weddings raised the same question. When a private celebration reshapes a public city for days, who actually absorbs the cost of policing it? None of that public safety spending shows up on the couple's private invoice from MSG. It's a separate bill paid by the city, and it's the one part of this entire story where how much did the wedding cost and how much did the wedding cost everyone else become two very different questions. Back on the couple's side of the ledger, the private security number alone, separate from anything the NYPD spent, could realistically land anywhere from $1 million to $5 million, depending on which expert you believe. Multiply that against a guest list, stacked with the level of fame we just walked through, and the higher end of that range starts to look a lot more believable than the lower one. A room with Jay-Z, Ed Sheeran, an NFL MVP, and 3 national news anchors in it needs a security operation closer to a presidential visit than a backyard reception. So now we've got the venue north of $2 million. The lighting and decor pushing $2 million more. The couture, custom shoes and jewelry impossible to price exactly, but clearly in the high 6 or low 7 figures. And security anywhere from $1 to $5 million, depending on how much of the private detail estimate you trust. Add it up piece by piece, using nothing but the lower bound of every single estimate, and you're already comfortably past $10 million before catering, entertainment fees for the performers, transportation for 1,000 guests, or the NDA enforcement staff are even factored in. Use the higher bound on any of those categories, and the $20 million figure that CNN's own luxury planner threw out. Stop sounding like an exaggeration and start sounding like simple math, which leaves one last question worth asking. Not how much it cost, but what that number actually buys two people who could have spent it on almost anything else. And what happens to a couple and a city after the marquee lights go dark? So where does the final math land? Different outlets ran the numbers slightly differently, but they kept converging on the same territory. One outlet's own breakdown, adding venue, labor, lighting, flowers, and security together piece by piece, put the floor at a specific figure. All in all, the biggest celebrity wedding of the year will certainly be one of the most expensive celebrity weddings of all time. And with a minimum price tag of at least $10 million, it's safe to say Swift and Kelce are sparing no expense. Other reporting settled on a rounder, higher figure once every category was accounted for. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding cost an estimated $15 million, with strict security and privacy measures at Madison Square Garden. And the widest published range simply kept both ends of the spectrum on the table rather than picking one. Reports suggested that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding at Madison Square Garden on July 3 could cost between $10 million and $20 million. Wherever the true number sits inside that range, it places this wedding among the most expensive ceremonies a couple has ever thrown for themselves in American history, rivaling or exceeding events staged by billionaire families with no public profile to manage at all. That comparison to Jeff Bezos's Venice wedding wasn't incidental. Both events represent the same phenomenon, just wearing different outfits. One took over a European city for a private celebration. The other took over several blocks of Manhattan and an entire NBA-caliber arena. Neither Swift nor Kelce has confirmed a specific total, and neither is likely to. The entire architecture of the night, the NDAs, the band phones, the watermarked invitations, the guest list kept secret until the last possible moment, was built specifically so that no one on the inside would ever be able to leak an exact figure. Guests received custom watermarked invitations that would allow the pop star and Kelce to trace each one back to its original recipient, so as to avoid leaked information. That level of operational secrecy is itself a cost center most couples never have to think about. And it's also the reason every number in this story carries the word estimated in front of it. What we do know for certain is what the money was chasing. Total control over a story that had been picked apart in public for nearly a year. From the moment their engagement broke, every detail of their life together had been dissected in real time. When Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce announced their engagement with a simple Instagram post in August 2025, it broke the internet. Even people closest to the couple got pulled into the guessing game and had to actively deflect it. Swift's sister-in-law, Kylie Kelce, made a plea on her podcast in April for people to stop asking her for wedding dirt. Kelce's own mother handled the pressure the same way. "I'm just happy. I'm so happy for them," Donna said when approached by a photographer, declining to reveal anything about her involvement in the planning. For most of the spring, the guessing game pointed somewhere else entirely. Some of the first speculations pointed to the wedding taking place on June 13, 2026 in Rhode Island, specifically at Ocean House, a luxury hotel in Watch Hill, R.I., mere feet away from Swift's mansion. Local vendors even believed it themselves. Co-owners of a local floral studio said, "From the buzz we've been hearing locally, we think Taylor and Travis might be getting married in Westerly, Rhode Island on June 13, 2026. That date came and went with nothing happening there, and the search shifted entirely to New York. That's really what all that money bought. Not just flowers and lighting, but the ability to control the reveal itself, right down to the moment the marquee lit up outside the arena. An NPR reporter covering the story described exactly why an arena, of all places, made sense for a couple trying to manage that level of exposure. "It's sort of this locked box where paparazzi can't get inside," Emma Fitzsimmons said. "There's not going to be helicopters overhead. She can release photos of the event and her dress, which we're all very curious to see on her own terms." That's the entire logic of the spending laid out in one quote. Every dollar spent on security, on NDAs, on phone bans, on street closures, was really buying the same single thing: the right to decide for the first time in nearly a year exactly how their own story got told. There's a symmetry worth noting in how the relationship started and how it was sealed. Swift had spoken publicly months before any of this about what first drew her to Kelce in the first place. She said she and Kelce bonded in part over similarities in their careers, in which they both entertained people for 3+ hours in NFL stadiums. They ended up getting married inside exactly that kind of building, just with a marriage license instead of a game ticket, and about 1,000 of the most famous people on the planet, watching from courtside seats that used to sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Kelce himself had unknowingly foreshadowed part of the timeline over a year earlier, before any of this was even public. "I actually don't know people who have gotten married in the fall," the Chiefs star had said on a podcast. "All the weddings I've been to, and all my friends do it in the summer. Summer, it was the first weekend of July, the same weekend Swift has always treated as personally sacred. She has a well-documented love of 4th of July, with many photos over the years, some on her own Instagram, of the star celebrating the holiday weekend in Rhode Island with friends and fireworks. It's not lost on fans that she met Kelce shortly after that same holiday back in 2023. So when people ask how much this wedding actually cost, the honest answer is that nobody outside Swift and Kelce's own accountants will ever know the figure to the dollar. What the public record does show is a venue bill running into the millions, a security operation closer to what you'd see at a head-of-state visit, couture built specifically for one night, and a guest list deep enough to require its own legal paperwork just to keep everyone quiet. Somewhere between $10 million and $20 million bought two of the most famous people on the planet one uninterrupted night, on their own terms, in a building neither of them had to explain to anyone. For a couple whose entire relationship played out in public for 3 straight years, that might have been the most expensive and most valuable purchase of the whole event.